What if the person who could answer the most important questions about a national tragedy suddenly disappeared? What if the one who lived shoulder to shoulder with a man accused of murder, the one who saw him at his most raw, his most unguarded, his most dangerous, was suddenly gone? That person is Lance Twiggs, and his silence is not just strange, it's disturbing. Authorities tell us Lance once cooperated with investigators, but if that's true, why isn't he standing before cameras? Why isn't he demanding justice? Why isn't his voice part of the public record? Instead, his name has been buried, his presence erased, and his role in Tyler Robinson's life left unanswered. Let's remember the facts. Tyler Robinson, 22 years old, is accused of killing Charlie Kirk, a murder that shocked the nation, dividing communities and igniting bitter arguments about politics, extremism, and safety. But while the headlines focused on Tyler, another figure lived right beside him in the very same home. That figure was Lance. Now think about this carefully. Lance's family owned the townhome where Tyler lived. Lance was not a stranger, not a distant friend. He was the roommate who gave Tyler a roof over his head, a roof Tyler didn't pay for because rent was never his burden. Rent was covered indirectly by Lance's family. So let's pause right there. A family that Lance reportedly cut ties with was still providing shelter for the man now accused of murder. What does that tell you? A son who rejects his family but still benefits from their money, a family that claims distance but continues to enable a lifestyle that would later host a tragedy. Where is the accountability? And this is where the contradictions pile up. Lance was raised Mormon, a religion of strict rules, tradition, and expectations. But according to a relative, Lance rejected it all. He wanted no part of the faith, no part of the family that clung to it, no part of the community that judged him. He walked away. And yet, did he ever truly escape? Because no matter how far he walked, the family name still owned his home, and their money still carried him. This begs a deeper question. Did Lance resent that dependence, or did he exploit it? Some will argue Lance was simply a victim of circumstance, estranged from his family, yet financially tied to them. But others whisper something far darker, that Lance didn't just live alongside Tyler, he influenced him. Did he encourage his roommate's frustrations, his rage, his disdain for authority? Or did he sit silently as warning signs mounted, content to look the other way? And here is where society must confront its own failure. Because while we speculate, while we debate, Charlie Kirk is dead. A man is gone, and the one person who might hold the truth about Tyler Robinson's state of mind has vanished. Do you see the injustice? And here's another uncomfortable angle. Is Lance's disappearance being protected because of his identity? Is the system shielding him because he's trans? Or is that detail being used as an excuse to remove him from scrutiny altogether? We're told not to ask. We're told not to speculate. But how can we not? When truth is hidden, speculation fills the silence. And this silence is deafening. Think about this. Police say he cooperated. But what does cooperated mean? Did he answer a few questions and vanish? Did he provide evidence we'll never see? Or did he cut a deal to disappear into obscurity while the rest of us are left with a fractured story? These contradictions are not small. They are monumental. Because if Lance knew Tyler's state of mind, if he saw the outbursts, the anger, the violent behavior toward family members, then he was not just a bystander, he was a witness. And if he encouraged even one moment of that rage, then his disappearance is not about protection, it's about avoidance. And yet, ask yourself this. What if Lance was the opposite? What if he was the only one trying to calm Tyler, to manage him, to control the chaos no one else would touch? If that's true, then where is the recognition? Why is his voice not amplified? Why has he been silenced, erased, hidden from the story? Do you see how either possibility is damning? If he influenced Tyler, he shares blame. If he tried to stop Tyler, he's been erased. And in both cases, society has failed. This is where you cannot look away, because the longer we accept silence, the further we get from the truth. And the truth matters, not just for Tyler Robinson or Charlie Kirk, but for every future tragedy we claim we never saw coming. If you think these questions deserve answers, then stay with us. Don't just watch and move on. Subscribe, because the more people demand clarity, the harder it becomes for authorities, families, and communities to bury uncomfortable truths. And make no mistake, this story is uncomfortable.
And when we peel back the layers, the picture becomes even harder to ignore. Tyler Robinson wasn't just another troubled young man. He was a storm everyone around him claimed they couldn't predict, but in reality, the warning signs were everywhere. Explosive outbursts at family members, violent behavior that left relatives shaken, sudden mood swings that frightened those closest to him. And through it all, Lance Twiggs was there, not watching from a distance, not hearing secondhand stories, but living right there inside the same walls. So let's ask the hard question. When you share a home with someone spiraling into violence, do you become part of the problem if you stay silent? And even more troubling, if Lance cut ties with his own family, rejecting them entirely, why did he allow Tyler to rely on his family's money? Why did he give him a rent-free existence inside a home that technically wasn't his? What does that say about responsibility, about complicity, about influence? It is here where the contradictions start to scream. A man who walks away from his family yet uses their assets to shelter someone else. A man who refuses his church yet keeps its silence. A man who claims independence but remains financially entangled. A man whose roommate kills and suddenly disappears without a trace. Do you see the web forming? And yet society shrugs. Authorities repeat the same line. He was cooperating, but where is the proof? Cooperation doesn't erase accountability. Cooperation doesn't explain why Lance vanished. Cooperation doesn't tell us whether his silence is voluntary or enforced. This is why the public feels uneasy, because when information is withheld, trust collapses. People start asking questions officials would rather not answer. Questions like, was Lance being investigated himself? Did investigators find communications, texts, messages, late-night conversations that suggest he encouraged Tyler's mindset? Or was Lance threatened, intimidated, told to step back for his own protection? And then comes the most controversial possibility. Was Lance hidden not for his safety, but for the safety of others? Was he removed from the public eye to prevent embarrassment to his family, his faith, his identity, or even the political forces swirling around this case? Because make no mistake, this isn't just about a murder. It's about narratives, about control, about who gets to shape the story. And right now, Lance's disappearance shapes the story more than his presence ever could. So we must ask, why is it so easy for society to erase him? Why do we let investigators feed us half-truths? Why do we accept silence when we should be demanding clarity? And why are we so afraid to say the one thing that could change everything? That Lance Twiggs may not just be a missing witness, but a missing piece of responsibility. You see, until we know where Lance is, until we know what he knew, until we know why his family abandoned him yet still provided the ground Tyler stood on, this case will never make sense. Charlie Kirk is dead. Tyler Robinson sits accused. But the man who lived closest to the truth has walked into shadow. And that silence, it should terrify you. Because if a figure this central can vanish, then how many other stories are we never told? How many other witnesses disappear? How many other truths are buried beneath labels like cooperation and protection? If you believe this story matters, if you believe Lance's voice matters, then don't let this end here. Stay with us. Subscribe. Because the louder the demand for truth, the harder it becomes for silence to win. The story of Lance Twiggs is not over. And until it is told in full, neither is the story of Charlie Kirk's murder.